here was the biggest takeaway for me, and I do disagree with you on one thing, and this is just up for interpretation, but my interpretation, I did not think it was that late after the bell. The bell had gone off. The referee then steps in. Now, the very first thing everybody has to understand is no fighter has to follow that bell. A fighter has to follow a referee stepping in, and that carries over to wrestling, to boxing, and to MMA, and they are instructed to do that, to fight at all times, to protect yourself at all times. Part of protecting yourself doesn't just mean put your hands up and be ready for a punch. It means to throw punches, and good offense is the best defense. Jessica DeAndre, did she throw that after the bell? Yeah, absolutely. But did she throw it after the referee stepped in? That's the only thing that has to be questioned. Now, with my own argument, yes, I think she threw it after the referee stepped in. However, it was by way less than a millisecond. If you go back and watch that thing a few times, the referee steps in, but the punch is kind of already going. It was very close, and I think that's what the referee determined as well. Of, hey, that's a very close one. I'm going to let it go. Where the problem came in for the referee was the second time she did it, he then warns her, if you do that again, I'm taking a point. Well, that was the again. That was the second time. Why doesn't he just come in and go, hey, you do that 2 more times and I'm going to take a point? There are things in MMA that are illegal, you can be disqualified for, or you can lose a point for, that referees absolutely will not disqualify you or take a point. And I have no idea why. I have no idea where that system came about, where, hey, here's how we're going to do this. We're all collectively going to ignore and then fill in the blanks, whether it's the eye pokes, the fence grab's a big one. You'll never grab a fence and lose a point. Not on your first time. Guaranteed you're getting a warning. You throw punches late. You know, remember what Pale Horace would do to guys? Some of this ridiculousness, no referee ever steps in, ever. And I don't know that I put the same weight on that referee or say, hey, he was in over his head for a main event. I don't know that I do that because I really did think that it was very close. And as far as that bell rule goes, so everybody can understand this, you do not have to stop on the bell. It is not your job as the fighter. That bell is to signify the referee, who then signifies you. And this came about in the 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. When the boxing was going on, they have 3 rings set up. And, you know, because it's a tournament. So guys have to box 4 and 5 times to win themselves a medal. When you had these multiple rings going, the guy that was supposed to win the gold medal, who was in I think he was even in a semifinal bout. He was winning by a landslide. Everything's going great. A subsequent bell went off to one of the other rings, and he stopped. He dropped his hands and stopped fighting. The other guy came over the top and KO'd him. Fight over. And everybody wanted to run it back. Everybody knew there was a mistake made. Everybody knew it was an error. It was extremely clear this guy was the best fighter. He was winning that fight. There wasn't much time left. Blah, blah, blah. The bottom line was his match was going, and he put his hands down, and he got KO'd. That's where the rule, not from the practice room to the commissions to the octagon, that's when the rule changed, and everybody was told, you do not stop fighting ever until the referee steps in. So, Joel, it is important that you understand, and everybody else, the fighter does not stop on the bell. The bell is to signify the referee to go in and stop the fight. I thought, particularly on the first punch, that, yes, the bell had gone off, but the referee stepping in, I thought it was close enough that I kind of saw what the referee saw, which was, I got to let that go. I didn't get in here quick enough. The second time, when Jessica even let everybody know, you know, stuck her tongue out and then hit herself in her head like, what was I thinking? You got to take a point. I mean, stepping in and saying, hey, if you do it again, which means what? She gets 3 clean shots into Holly's face? No. You can't do that.
Jessica, her name is actually Germaine.
What am I calling her? DeAndre?
No, her name's Germaine Randamie.
Randamie. All right.
There's no Jessica anywhere in it.
Oh, her name's not even Jessica. Her name is, what's her name?
I think her nickname's Jessica.
Give me her first name again.
Germaine.
Germaine Randamie.
Randamie.
Well, excuse me. You know, names are important. It's important that we get it right.
Jessica's close, though.
Yeah, well, you got Jeddah Jacek is out there. That's a tough one. I've mastered...
Words are hard.
I've mastered Nurmagomedov. over time, but I mean, you got to give us a little bit of a break, and we are being introduced to people. As the original point I made in this, you have to put that fight on to start to establish a division. You have to start somewhere. And you know what? You said something earlier, and I appreciate you saying that, and that was to say we all love Holly, because, boy, we all love Holly. I mean, what a nice gal, what a hardworking gal, and a straight-up competitor. I mean, she got hit so hard, so clean. The punches that happened in the fight that she's ready for, that she's moving, that she's bobbing, those were hard. So imagine when she goes still, starts to put her guard down, is ready to walk to her corner, takes a sigh of relief, if you will, and then gets drilled by the baddest girl in the world at the heaviest weight class contested. Not very many people would have continued. Holly stumbled to her corner, got off that stool early, and started bouncing side to side to get the feeling back in her legs. That is a competitor, and that is impressive.
As she's lost 3 in a row, and the whole world is coming to an end. But the reality is, she lost to Miesha. She was winning that fight. She lost a close decision to Valentina, who's now going to fight for a title, and now she lost another razor-close decision. So these are the best fighters in the world, but the advice that you gave Ryan last week, an up-and-comer, is, man, it's not always about winning and losing. In this case, how far does she drop? I mean, she doesn't drop that far in either weight class, whether she's at 135 or whether she's at 145. Holly's a killer, and she's going to get better. So yeah, we do love Holly, and
well, I agree with everything you just said, and I didn't even know she'd lost 3 in a row. The way she goes out and competes and fights, it doesn't matter. She could have won those fights or lost those fights. I like what you said about the Miesha fight. I picked against Miesha when she went in to fight Nunes, and it wasn't against Miesha personally. It was just, hey, listen, I just watched her get whipped. You can raise her hand and put that belt around her, but I just watched Holly Holm whip her. I watched her get whipped in her very last fight. That happened. So the other side of that coin is, yeah, Holly had a great performance that night. She outfought Miesha, but she lost the contest. She lost a position. What was that? The 5th round. Her fight with the Russian gal was a main event fight. It was razor thin, as you said, and it was a main event fight. She then loses this world title fight in a different weight class. So the fights she's competing in are either for world titles or their main events. When and you brought up Ryan, he's fighting for the championship. When you're fighting for championships, when you're fighting in main events, you're still at the top, and they're not all going to go your way. But I did not even realize that Holly had lost 3 in a row, so you just said that, and I do not think the world is coming to an end for her at all. I think she goes to number 3. I think they put Cyborg as the number 1 contender at that weight class, and I think that Holly leaves that weight class. I think she's bouncing back to 135. Where I think she belongs, and she becomes an immediate contender there as well.
Yeah, it's good to see. People talk about who fights at 145 pounds. Well, we don't know those people, but they're out there, and the UFC is going to build them. And so much so, man, you almost see a women main event as much as you do see men right now.
Yeah.
So there's numbers. There's a number person out there that says, hey, they're drawn, and they're drawing a different crowd.
Sure.
And I know we want to get in that market. We want some women to listen to the show.
I tell you what, another thing that was very telling was Chris Cyborg's presence at that fight. I can tell you this from firsthand experience. When you are suspended, when you are on a suspension, you are out. You are not on highlight reels. You are not doing interviews. You are not showing up to expos. You are not showing up to events. You are not on camera. You are out. Cyborg is suspended. She was in the front row. She was the most talked about fighter of the entire card. The camera went on her more times than anybody else. And they announced that she was likely going to be fighting DeAndre for the championship next. So whatever is going on with Cyborg's situation with USADA is definitely looking very bright for her. And likely a decision has already been made and just not done formally. And I say that just from being in her shoes and being suspended by them and knowing how it works, she would be on the outs, but she was on the ins. And I think that that's good news for Cyborg. And I thought what she got flagged for was very fugazi to start with. And a lot of times with USADA, it is very black and white, and you don't get to tell your side. It sounds like she got to tell her side, and that they listened. And I don't have any more details than that, but it's more than speculation when she's there, when she's on camera, when she's brought up pre-fight, post-fight, and named the next opponent. It's more than just speculation at this point. And frankly, I'm happy about that.
I'm happy for Cyborg too. She's going to get in there, and she's probably going to win that fight. I mean, that's an amazing athlete.